Hi, welcome to the latest edition of Doing It Differently. This week we are going to be talking about AI and specifically Copilot, which is Microsoft's adaptation of AI. And we're joined today by Infinity Group's Head of Innovation and AI, Tristan Shortland. Tristan, how you doing?
Yeah, good, thanks, mate. Nice to be here.
Good to have you on, mate. Good to have you on. Tristan, tell us a little bit about, as Head of Innovation and AI, what your role encompasses and what do you cover and what do you do?
Yeah, so I guess fundamentally my role is really about being the conduit between Microsoft and Infinity Group and our customers and prospects. So Microsoft are busy developing lots of things, releasing stuff all the time, updating their existing products. So it's really my job to stay across all of that, understand where we can take advantage of those innovations for our customers and prospects, and kind of be a bit of a thought leader. So communicate to the business about what's new and different and things that are coming up, what's on the roadmap, what previews and pilots can we try out, that kind of stuff. So yeah, really being in charge of staying across all of the tech that's coming out of Microsoft, and then also looking after our teams that turn that into kind of product and IP that we can use for our customers. So how can we deploy things quickly, or how can we take advantage of new features for our customers? So a big part of our managed service across our BizApps customers is about keeping them up to date with what's coming as well. So there's 2 big releases a year with hundreds of changes in them. So it's important that we understand those and know what's relevant for each individual customer and communicate that with them as well. So all of that.
Yeah, amazing. So, I mean, things really have changed this year as far as AI goes. And I know certainly, within the BizApps product itself, there's been elements of AI have been there for quite a while, actually. But this year, it just seems to have accelerated with the likes of ChatGPT and a very big focus on AI. So what is Microsoft AI? Tell us what Microsoft's version of AI is.
Yeah, so really it falls into kind of 2 camps. So a bit of background, Microsoft made a big investment in OpenAI that provide lots of AI services. So they're all available through their Azure platform. So there's lots of kind of fundamental AI tools in there where you can build your own models and create your own kind of apps and functionality around AI. And the idea of the AI offering that's kind of wrapped up in Azure is what we kind of refer to as in the business as differential AI. So this is for customers that are in specific industries or have specific processes, and we can use kind of pro code tools to build out AI tooling for specific scenarios. So really good example came across the other day talking to Declan, was there's the police force are using real-time analysis of CCTV footage in train stations to identify patterns of behaviour in people that might jump onto the train tracks, for example. So that's a really great application of where AI can make people safer. And those are the kind of niche scenarios that the Azure AI tools can help us build. On the other side, then, we've got what we refer to as the productivity AI toolset, and that's much more ubiquitous, so everyone's got access to it, and it's built into the apps and tools that we use on a daily basis. So things like Sales Copilot in Dynamics, which will summarize an email thread for you, help craft a response for you, suggest the right products for a customer, summarize a meeting that you've had, all of those kind of things. There's also Copilots within Microsoft 365, within Teams Premium as well. So things like identifying actions in a meeting, that kind of stuff. So those tools we see benefiting everyone. So there's a kind of broad application for a big set of productivity tools that have got AI infused into them. So yeah, that's one side. And then the other side are those more niche industry or process specific use cases.
Yeah. Excellent. I mean, it's and obviously across the entire Microsoft 365, including some of the more legacy apps, like Word and PowerPoint. I was using PowerPoint the other day, and AI was helping me build slides. Copilot was helping me build slides, and I was actually still use Word occasionally. I think I was working on a board report, and yet there's some new stuff in there to help when you're building documents and putting stuff together to help with the language and the
some of it is really subtle like that. So it'll suggest the next sensible next word in a sentence, that kind of thing, and then you've got the bigger applications where you can say take this big long Word document and turn it into a PowerPoint summary.
No, I'm using the tools just naturally already. So yeah, it's really good. So what AI does Microsoft use? Is that the open AI piece? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah. So from their investment in OpenAI, that's allowed them to build those tools into the Azure platform, and then things like Copilots and the productivity tools within the Office apps use those fundamental AI tools. So they've got some large language models in there, machine learning tools, and then they've built their own models for things like text recognition, object detection, that kind of stuff. So again, they're all kind of pre-baked into the Azure platform. From a Power Platform perspective, there's a tool called AI Builder, which again has got some pre-built models in it that you can then utilize in the low-code platform from things like Power Automate. So that allows you to do stuff like when an email arrives, you can have Power Automate, look at that email, look at the attachment, detects whether that attachment's an invoice, see how much the invoice is for and who it's from, and send that off to the right person to be approved. So that's using some pre-built models in AI Builder through low-code tooling that's really accessible, really easy to use. So you've got the kind of foundational stuff baked into Azure where you can go and build your own custom models and functionality. And then you've got all these kind of pre-packaged use cases as well, which are much quicker to utilize.
Fantastic. So you've got Microsoft AI, which they call Copilot, right? And they call that Copilot because the understanding is that AI is not going to take over your world. It is working with you as someone by your side, helping you using all these different tools and all these different applications, and really helping you give you an advantage and save you time, make you more productive, etc. Is that right?
Yeah, so Copilot is a kind of umbrella term for lots of different tools, but it's exactly that. The idea is it's kind of by your side as a productivity booster and making you more efficient and taking away those kind of menial bits of the job, if you like.
Mundane tasks.
And I think it's a really good term. So to Salesforce, because they nicked it as well.
I saw that.
Yeah, that idea of a Copilot that's kind of there assisting you. And there's lots of different applications. So talked already about the sales Copilot. There's one within Dynamics 365 customer service as well, so you can find the knowledge that you need to respond to customers quicker. There's one within field service, so you can automatically generate work orders, summarize previous work orders. It will recommend the length of time that you need to go and do a site visit based on where it is, who's doing it, who the customer is, those kinds of things. There's a Copilot within Dynamics Marketing to help you author content, pick the right images, that kind of thing, and so on and so on. There's a security one for kind of detecting and resolving security threats. And as time goes on, we expect to see more and more and more under that Copilot umbrella. And I think the great thing about how it's been built so far is it is so kind of seamless in the flow of work. So it's just there when you need it. You've also got Bing Chat Enterprise, which is a kind of ChatGPT type large language model, but baked into the Edge browser, and in a secure and safe way has access to all your organizational data. So you can ask it questions like, what was the amount of the last invoice we sent to this customer or whatever, and it's got access to the context it needs to answer that question. So you've got numerous kind of pre-built Copilots, but Microsoft have also built the platform in such a way that partners can extend that and build their own Copilots. So again, going back to that scenario where you've got niche industries or process requirements, you can build a Copilot that kind of slots into that flow of work as well. And that's good because the terminology is consistent with the other Copilots and the user experience as well. So it's much easier to understand for end users. You don't really worry about what kind of underlying tech is. They just want this assistant to be there when they need it, and we've got a framework to deliver that.
Yeah. So I mean, Microsoft have made obviously a considerable investment in this area, certainly in OpenAI, and then obviously themselves bringing this to market. How much is it? Is it free? Is it in the products at the moment? Is it something they're going to charge for? Is it something that some of it's going to be free and some of it's going to be charged for?
Yeah, it's a bit of a mixture in there. From a business applications perspective, it's mostly baked into the existing license cost. So if you've got the enterprise version of sales or customer service, there's only one tier for marketing, but you've got the Copilots that are built into that. And Microsoft's approach to that is you're paying for the premium package effectively. You get everything, whether you choose to use it or not. You get more functionality with that license. The exception to the rule, I guess, is the Microsoft 365 Copilot. So there's certain base licensing you need, because it needs the semantic indexing capability in it, which is only available in some editions of that. Then you pay a license for Copilot functionality on top of that. So you can do a bit of analysis and a bit of an assessment within the organization who's going to benefit from it the most, and just deploy it to those users. So yeah, from a business perspective, mostly baked into the tooling. From a productivity perspective, it's an add-on license. You've got things as well like the Sales Copilot, so you can actually buy that as a standalone license if you don't have Dynamics 365 Sales, because it works with Salesforce as well. So it's an open platform, so you get the same functionality in terms of summarising emails and meetings, and crafting responses and things, but with a third-party CRM.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, Microsoft have done that well, actually, the way they collaborate with other tech companies.
So same with Power Platform is a really good example. You've got that connector estate. There's about 1,000 connectors in there. Microsoft and non-Microsoft platforms. So that scenario earlier, we were talking about the kind of productivity gains you can get from using Power Automate. You could be using SAP or...
Absolutely. So, I mean, most businesses have got multiple systems. I think it's something like, if you're a certain size, over 100 applications, and being able to integrate with all of those seamlessly at the same time, and take advantage of some of these things like Copilot is really, really powerful. And because you're not going to go in and replace all of your systems in one hit, it's an impossibility. So
it really facilitates that efficiency gain, but without ripping out and replacing everything, going through those kind of big painful changes. You can use it to kind of fill gaps and improve processes, but keeping what you've got essentially.
So, I mean, I think there's probably quite a few small business owners that are sitting there thinking, "Oh, AI, this is beyond us. We can't afford this investment. This is for corporates and large organisations." And I think, as someone that runs a business, and we're a small business as well. We sit. I mean, I see the advantages of AI now. I can see it in the Microsoft tooling. How can you think of any practical applications of AI within small businesses?
Yeah, I mean, there's loads. You're right, and as a small business, you're probably not going to go and develop your own AI model, because you're probably not going to have a big enough data set to do that, and you're not going to go and kind of disrupt your industry. And that's the kind of big differential AI that we were talking about earlier. But from a productivity perspective, even as a one-man band, there's benefit to being able to summarize an email chain, generate a response, recommend a product, recommend a free slot for a meeting without having to go and hunt through your calendar. And those little incremental benefits add up when you apply that to everything you do, from emailing to writing documents to responding to customers. So those Copilot kind of use cases in that productivity AI piece can benefit every individual, from one person up to kind of enterprise size organizations. And we really recommend, we've got a bit kind of AI readiness workshop that we run, and part of that is about benchmarking beforehand what you do. So it's not always that obvious where you've got lots of little benefits like that the gain is there. But if we do a bit of work at the start to measure that stuff, you can then start to see where those benefits are being realised. And also it's about kind of productive and happy staff as well. No one loves going through an Excel spreadsheet and summarising and analysing it and that kind of stuff. The value in that person's job is dealing with the results of that analysis rather than doing it in the first place. So again, by rolling these tools out, even across a small business, you find that the staff are more productive, they're more happy, customers are happier, and you make more money. That's the chain.
Yeah, no, absolutely. How does AI help reduce costs?
Yeah, that's a good question. So predominantly it's through efficiency and kind of quality of work as well. So if you think, even if you haven't got a kind of complex contact center type setup, you're just servicing your customers as a kind of standard small business, most of that time that you're spending is finding answers to things. So you're looking for stuff and finding knowledge. Now, we've had search engines that do that over the internet for a long time, but now we've got these tools that are built into the Microsoft 365 stack that have got access to all of the context and data within your business, and they can go and find that knowledge, whether that's in SharePoint or a Teams message or an old email or whatever it might be. So those kind of productivity gains, when you multiply that up by the number of people you got and the number of things they're trying to find every day, makes a big difference. So you're reducing costs there through efficiency. So you're enabling those same people to achieve more effectively in the same amount of time. When we're talking some of the bigger use cases, then we are really looking at where can we go over and above what a human's capable of. Could we analyse a larger data set that a human would be able to do? Could we predict trends in terms of what stock we're going to need, when stock's going to run out, and then we can run a more efficient warehouse because we're not holding lots of stock unnecessarily, or we're not holding the wrong stock. Depending on the kind of department within the organisation and the application, lots of ways where AI can help us to not only reduce costs, but also, I say, do more with the resources that we've got as well.
So here's a big one for you, Tristan. How does AI work? Come on, I'm getting your brain. I'm getting your brain.
So if we focus specifically on the generative AI, which is the kind of thing that's exploded recently in those large language models, I'm not going to go into the science behind it because we won't have time, but fundamentally it's about a probability prediction. So if you think you ask something, you say, what's going to be the next word of this sentence in the voice of Shakespeare or whatever, what it's going to do is go and look at all of the words that Shakespeare's ever written. It's going to look at the word that you've written, predict what the next letter would be, and then repeat that process. The idea of a large language model is it then layers that up, so it does it multiple times. So you're then predicting a word and a sentence, and then you apply some context to that as well. Effectively, big probability machine is the answer. Running a large distributed cloud environment.
So you've obviously got effectively a data set that the AI is looking at, and it's making decisions or giving you answers based on that data set. Is that right?
That's correct, and that's why it's so important now. You've got things like ChatGPT that are trained on public data sets. But lots of organisations have their own data, depending on the industry they're in, and that data then is the gold now, because if you can train a model over your data that's then trained effectively in the context of your organisation, it's got the answers you need, it sounds like you, all of that good stuff. So it's always been important to look after your data and keep it kind of clean and accurate, etc. But now, if you're looking to use that to gain a competitive advantage because you're going to train an AI model against it, it's then really critical to that process.
So this then really brings it down to, you talked about that AI readiness workshop that we do. It's about kind of getting your ship in order, making sure your data is organised, your data is current and correct, and also, just as important, making sure your data is secure, because when we look at organisations that come to us, the first piece of work that we need to do is get that data sorted, and also make sure that the right people have the right access to the right bits of data. Because as soon as you unleash the AI, then obviously there's more of a chance of out-of-date documents being found, or documents that shouldn't be accessed by people being accessed.
Yeah, absolutely. And all of the Microsoft AI respects all of the existing security policies that are in place. So if you didn't have access to a document, you're not going to be able to find that through Bing Chat Enterprise, for example. But what we see a lot in organisations is people have inadvertently shared something with a wider group than they meant to, or they've saved something somewhere that's a public location. Now, previously that hasn't mattered because no one's found it. But like I say, if you then start asking AI questions, it's going to find that if you've got access to it. So, that kind of least privilege access is a principle that we would always apply anyway before AI. But now it becomes even more important. And a big part of that readiness assessment is assessing what data people have got access to. You mentioned in there as well about kind of out-of-date data. So if you've got a folder somewhere called archive that's got all your old insurance certificates in it or whatever, and you ask AI what insurances you've got, it's going to find that. So again, there's a bit of an exercise there to make sure that things that are archived properly, and you basically keep everything tidy and up to date. And there's effort in doing that analysis piece in the first place, and then getting it right, and then keeping it up to date. So that's something that we help out with a lot.
And that's data from all kind of areas. So whether it's within business applications with the Dataverse, right?
Yeah.
But also data that might be stored in applications like SharePoint and even Teams, which obviously sits on SharePoint. So, making sure you get that data straight and secure is the fundamental groundworks of really being able to take advantage of AI.
And there's lots of tools within Microsoft 365 to help with that. So we can do things like identify old documents or documents that have got a large audience that can access them. So there's some tooling there to help that. It's not necessarily a manual process, but it is something that needs to be done.
So just going back to our kind of earlier question, you touched on Bing, not Bing, Edge and Enterprise Bing, which Bing is Microsoft's. For those of you obviously know what Bing is, but for those of you that don't, Bing is Microsoft's search engine, and being able to unleash that on your company data is really, really powerful. Asking questions in natural language to analyze that data is a really powerful tool and something I've been using quite a bit. Tristan, tell us a little bit about that, and also, are Microsoft going to be charging for that service? Is that part of Copilot going to be chargeable?
So at the moment, it's not. I wouldn't bet my life on the fact that might not change going forward. But yeah, at the moment, it's built in as part of the Edge browser. So you've got Bing Chat Enterprise, there's a little blue bit in the corner. And the really unique thing about that is the way it's designed to be secure and compliant. So you'll see, you get a little notice when you're using it that it's secure and your data is kept within your tenant. So what that allows us to do is ask questions which are answered by a large language model, but go through a process called grounding, which is where they look at your organizational data for context. But what you're not doing is using that data to train a larger model. Whereas if you use something like ChatGPT that's out there, actually every time you interact with that, you're training it. So if you were asking it, what's is my pricing in my proposal competitive, you're effectively giving away that information. Whereas if you use Bing Chat Enterprise, that stays within your tenant and within your organization. So we're really, really encouraging our customers to use that. Otherwise, if you don't, people are curious. They're going to go and explore. They're going to find ChatGPT and they're going to go and use it, and then they're gradually just leaking your organizational data out into a public model. Whereas with Bing Chat Enterprise, it's all safe, it's all secure, it stays within your tenant.
So just to summarize that, taking that back to trust and security, that data of yours within your tenant, so your SharePoint data, your Dataverse data within all your different business applications, products, whether it's sales or marketing or Business Central, that data is ring-fenced and is secure. And none of that data is shared even for any kind of AI learning purposes. That is your data. And when you search in something like Enterprise Bing, it goes across all those different data sets to bring you an answer, but that isn't shared externally with anyone else.
Correct, yeah. So it's used to answer the question and add context to the answer, but never to train the model at the other end, yeah.
So this is a good one. The next one. In this crazy world we live in, when something new like AI comes out, there's often people that jump on the fence, and we've all seen Terminator. The world's going to end, and the robots are coming, etc., etc. Is AI dangerous? What's your view on that? Yeah,
it's a good one. So it's in my view, it's not dangerous in that it's going to burst through the door and chop your head off. There's no AI that's going to create its own physical being and take over the world and that kind of thing. The danger in AI is the kind of negative application. So if we look at these kind of big, large language models, they can be biased. They can be offensive, and they don't have any understanding of those things. So Microsoft's kind of responsible AI code has got lots of kind of terms built into it to mitigate those things, but it could still give you a misleading answer that if you trusted it, might send you down the wrong path. So there's a bit of risk in that. You've also then got bad actors who could use AI for dangerous things. So whether that's using it to try and breach people's accounts or just lots of potential negative applications. So that's not the AI itself being dangerous. That's the person or people using it that are using it for things that are dangerous and wrong. So yeah, from a kind of foundational perspective, there is that chance of bias and wrong answers and those kind of things. But the way Microsoft mitigate that is there's always a human in the loop. So when we look at those Copilot type applications, it's a suggested answer. It's not, in a suggested email, it's not writing it and sending it and cutting out the human. So it's still important that we review those summaries and tweak them if we need to, and add our own context to that. And then in terms of people using AI for bad, that's more of a government problem than a Microsoft.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think, as a society, there's been a lot of technological change, and I think for me, it's a lot about education and making sure that it's clear that when you're working with AI, you are working. People know you're working with AI and you understand how that works, and that's an educational piece for me. But
it's similar to the internet. That opened up a lot of opportunity, a lot of possibility, and lots of people have used that for good things. Some people have used it for bad things.
But on the whole, it's been used for good, and I think the advantages of AI, certainly in a business, in a humanitarian way as well, it far outweighs the negatives.
When you look at things like finding cures for diseases and being able to farm more efficiently, those kind of things, they're big kind of world-changing applications of AI for good.
So if I'm a business and there's all this talk about AI and all these businesses using AI, I could possibly feel like really, really overwhelmed and don't know where to start. How, as an organisation, do we invest in AI? We know it's the right thing to do. How do we do it?
Yeah. So, first of all, we want to make sure we're doing it in a kind of structured and understood way. And referencing the point earlier about, if you don't encourage people to use Bing Chat Enterprise, they'll find their own way and they'll go and use ChatGPT and start leaking your stuff out into the public domain. So you should have a strategy around AI and how you're going to apply that. We've obviously got some tools as a partner. So we've got our AI readiness workshop that runs through the fundamentals of the kind of data readiness. So that data piece that we talked about, security around that, and then the human element as well. So we need to really think about the people that are involved. So we've got some good guidance around identifying champions within the organisation, how you can kind of create a community around those people, and they're really going to be the ones that kind of lead the charge in terms of that productivity AI. And the reason we'd approach it like that rather than as a kind of project is that the applications are so broad and so numerous. It's really a culture change. It's not a project that you go and implement AI. It's a culture change where you embrace it as an organisation and you experiment with it and you use it and you find the things that are really good about it and the benefits. So you need to have that culture and those people in place to support that. So we'll kind of help go on that journey. From a practical standpoint, we can do things like a kind of pilot rollout, so something like Sales Copilot or Microsoft 365 Copilot, release that to a kind of smaller audience where we can test it, make sure it's safe, run a pilot before we then roll it out more broadly. But all through that, you've got that kind of change management and communication piece is really important, so people know what's coming, why it's coming, and how they can use it. So that's your kind of investment in productivity AI. From the standpoint of what are those differential use cases where I might be able to disrupt the industry I'm in or really can create a competitive advantage. That's about identifying what those use cases might be. Not always immediately obvious. In some industries they are. But again, we've got a part of that AI readiness workshop is to run an exercise to identify what those use cases are and create a business case around them. So if we implemented this model, this process, what would that save? And therefore, what are we willing to invest in that? When are we going to get a return on investment? So again, it comes down to planning and approaching it with structure rather than just kind of diving in. So create that culture of curiosity and experimentation, but a safe place for people to do that. Identify the champions within the organisation, get everyone's ideas, and use those to put business case together.
And in some cases, I'm right in understanding there's some funding available for that from Microsoft. We can.
Yeah, certainly is. Yeah, so Yeah, we can get funding for that exercise of constructing a business case. We can also get funding for things like tailored demonstrations of the product and the tools as well. So that's Microsoft supporting us to help our customers identify those use cases and drive that investment in AI.
So we can, so okay, so we could look at a customer. We can actually come in and say, what's the business case? What areas can AI be applied? Where, or technology as a whole, be applied? Where are you going to save money? Where are you going to gain competitive advantage? And then you can prioritise those kinds of things.
So we look at it through four different lenses. That business case bit. So how can we grow revenue? Is one. How can we reduce cost? So how can we do more with what we've got effectively? How can we transform our proposition? So could AI allow you to kind of transform your offering in the market? And how can we mitigate risk? And we go through an exercise where we identify things in those four buckets, assign a value to them, look at the cost to implement, and then that gives us a return on investment calculation. And that's the exercise that we can get funding for.
Okay, so I've got one more question, right? So what jobs will AI replace? So what kind of jobs are we seeing at the moment in the projects that we're delivering and the kind of AI use cases that we're implementing? Where are we making efficiencies? And I don't see this. People get a bit worried about this. All the jobs are going to be taken by the robots and all this stuff. But actually, I think where we've seen it, what we've seen is the people. Large chunks of people's workloads have been replaced by AI, but actually, those people have then gone on to add more value to the business by freeing themselves up. But tell us what your thoughts are.
Exactly that. We've seen multiple instances of people being able to achieve a lot more with the time and the tools they've got. So a really good example is within field service. So it's a tool for managing resource out in the field. There's AI enabled route optimization tool in there called resource schedule optimization, and that's allowed our customers to achieve a lot more from a scheduling perspective using that automation, and then use the time that's freed up to better service customers. So the exceptions to that, where someone's not in or they're ill or they need to rearrange something, can provide a much better service to those people because you've got time to do that. You're not kind of constantly manually rerouting and kind of fighting the schedule all the time. But you can actually invest in those cases where you do need a human input, and those people feel like they're adding much more value rather than just moving things around on a schedule or arranging things in a spreadsheet or whatever it might be. So it's not about replacing jobs for us. That's going back to that Copilot thing. It's alongside as opposed to instead of. It's about freeing up people from the more mundane tasks to focus on where they can really deliver value ultimately to our customers in the majority of instances. But finance teams, that might be servicing the business internally better and more efficiently as well. So it's about getting the most out of people, and that makes the employees more happy and more productive as well. And again, that's a benefit to customers.
Fantastic. So if I'm a business owner or a leader within a business, or I don't know, an IT manager or just someone within an organisation that wants to learn more about AI, more about Microsoft Copilot and how that can come in and impact your business. I understand we're doing an event in November, I think November the 9th, up in London, up at Paddington with Microsoft. Tell us a little bit more about that and what that might look like.
Yeah, so you're right, it's the 9th of November, and the idea is it's a kind of interactive event. So we've got some guys from Microsoft there that will be coming to speak about what their kind of AI strategy is and how they've already seen it help organisations. And then we're going to break out into some more workshop-y type sessions where we've actually got some real applications of AI that we're going to demo the kind of setup and use of. So that will hopefully bring the idea to life for people so they can kind of get their juices flowing in terms of what AI might be able to do for their organisation. And then we'll be talking about, in a bit more detail than we have today, what that kind of journey looks like of adoption. So how to get data and security right, how to do the kind of people and change management side of it. So hopefully people will go away with some ideas of how they might be able to apply AI within their organisations, but B, also a kind of clear path as to what that's going to look like from a practical perspective. Again, we'll be talking about our AI readiness workshop at that event as well, and how that can help people identify use cases, also put a business case together and a roadmap of how to practically do that in the real world.
Fantastic, and that's going to be us and some senior folk from Microsoft as well. Is that right?
That's right. Yeah.
Fantastic. Tristan, thanks for your time. And actually, just for the audience, if you've got any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat, and I'll do my best to answer them. Likewise, if you want to reach out to myself, please do. rob.young@infinitygroup.co.uk or tristan.shortland@infinitygroup.co.uk will answer any questions you might have. Thanks again for joining us, Tristan, and thank everyone else for listening.